I'm sure that by now you've seen a ton of useful ChatGPT hacks, prompts, and use cases. Like showing your mom how much you care by having a heartless, emotionless robot write her a Mother's Day gift card. Or helping you lie to your boss by having it write an email saying you're sick and you won't show up to work. Or, my favorite, instructing it to create an affiliate blog for you that's gonna flood the internet with more useless Me Too content that brings no value to anyone. You already know all of that. Let's check out something a little bit more different. These are my 5 ways of putting ChatGPT to a somewhat good use. Number 1. Get mentoring from the best mentors possible. If there's one piece of advice for success in business and life that I absolutely hate but is also probably 100% true, it's the advice to get mentoring from successful people in the area you're looking to improve. Why do I hate such a good piece of advice, you might ask? Well, it's because it's excruciatingly painful and difficult to get a good mentor. Of course I would like to be mentored by Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, but as it turns out, they're absolutely blind to the value they would get from mentoring a person such as myself. Kidding aside, usually the people that I want to be mentored by often have better things to do than waste their time on the likes of me, and that's probably true for most people. Luckily, everyone successful or famous has published content on the internet. Content that ChatGPT has learned from and has been trained on. That is why ChatGPT might be able to sort of provide you with something resembling a mentoring experience from your business crush. Let's say I want to get mentoring from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. Here's how I would prompt ChatGPT for that experience. Of course, the more details you provide, the better results you will get. Hey ChatGPT, I want you to pretend that you're Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and that you are my business mentor. You have my best professional interests at heart. You want to give me high-level advice on my business, and you kind of like and respect me as a friend a little bit as well. That last part is not really useful, but I like the sound of it. My main project right now is called Future Tuts, which I aim to build into the best educational resource for people looking to have productive lives in the future by making the best use of emerging technologies, most notably AI. I'm currently struggling with execution. I think my plan is pretty solid. I have some ideas for the content, but I struggle with procrastination and perfectionism. What would your advice be for me? And off we go. Let's see what Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has to say for me. Hey there, as Sam Altman, your business mentor, I completely understand the challenges. Okay, obviously Sam Altman has some very custom tailored, personalized advice for me. And this should be fun. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Embrace that done is better than perfect. Okay, this is already kind of useful, I guess. Break down tasks into smaller actionable steps, etc, etc. Okay, this is pretty good. Use number 2. Use ChatGPT as a therapist. If you are an average person under 40 today, statistics show that you have less than 5 good friends, at least 3 of whom are hitting on your girlfriend or boyfriend. Also, you probably don't leave the house as much, you have trouble sleeping, and of course the buzzword of our generation, you have anxiety. It's no wonder that most of us need some therapy, and some of us need a ton of therapy. Unfortunately, therapy is time consuming, usually expensive, and getting a good therapist is probably difficult. Now, wouldn't it be cool if you had non-stop access to an all-knowing, all-understanding, kind and loving therapist trained in all the schools of psychotherapy from the comfort of your home completely for free? Well, you already kinda do. You've just been using it to spam the internet and lie to your boss instead of asking for mental well-being advice. Let's see how ChatGPT might provide us with some very basic therapy. We can start with something like this. What are the most effective modern approaches in psychotherapy? And it's gonna list a few of them. The first of them being CBT, then acceptance and commitment, dialectical behavior therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, etc, etc. I'm gonna go with the first one, CBT, because I've heard this term like twice in my life, so it must be something, right? Let's continue now with something like this. Pretend that you're an expert psychotherapist specializing in CBT. I'm having a very expensive session at your office and we're about to start now. You've already asked me how I've been this week and I tell you I've had trouble sleeping. Continue as a friendly but professional CBT therapist would. Therapist, hello and welcome to our session. I'm glad you made it today. So, you mentioned that, okay, so the session is started here. I'm already getting some therapy advice. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Congratulations, you're now working on yourself. Now, keep in mind that this is not meant to be a complete replacement for therapy. If you're having serious mental and emotional struggles, seek help from a human therapist. ChatGPT can do the trick in a pinch, but you should never really completely rely on its answers. Number 3. Use ChatGPT as a tutor or a study buddy. As an eternal procrastinator and a perpetual lazy I've found this to be one of the most useful uses of ChatGPT, to level up my knowledge and be an even bigger smartass at parties. If you're one of those people who always find an excuse not to study, and one of your favorite excuses is, I can't study alone, well, now you'll have to come up with a different excuse. I'm sorry. ChatGPT is perfect as a tutor or a study buddy. It knows everything, or at least it pretends it does. It has great reasoning and explanatory powers, and obviously it has nothing better to do than sit around with you and explain the same thing over and over again for the 100th time, until you understand it completely. For example, lately I've been kinda curious about how each and every one of us gets poorer over time thanks to inflation and quantitative easing. If you're anything like me, just hearing those words might give you a migraine. But luckily, we have ChatGPT to explain things for us. This should be good enough for starting point. Explain how inflation and quantitative easing work. And we're off to the races. So, inflation and quantitative easing are both economic concepts that are closely related. Let's start with inflation. So it's gonna explain these super boring economic concepts here. And the best thing about it, if you're too bored to learn any of these adult stuff, you can always ask it to explain it to you like you're 5 years old. So it's gonna go ahead and simplify things and dumb things down as much as it can. Okay, it's using toys and candies to explain these concepts, so I guess it's doing its job well. You can also always dig deeper on concepts you're not exactly clear about. Number 4, use ChatGPT to read books. According to internet lore, every successful person accredits their success to the habit of reading at least one book a day, sometimes even one book an hour, or even one book a minute. Okay, that's obviously sarcasm, but reading books is pretty important. So the only way to catch up to successful people is to read as many books as you can, as fast as you can. However, even with magical techniques like speed reading or listening to audiobooks at 7 times the speed, you will still not be fast enough. Like with everything else, we're gonna outsource reading to ChatGPT. Are you familiar with the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? It's gonna say yes, as it's usually familiar with everything on this god green earth, and it's gonna list the 7 principles. Great. Now I'm curious about the first principle, and we're gonna ask it to elaborate on it a little bit. And it's gonna go in depth. Self-awareness, response versus reaction, taking initiative. Okay, this sounds pretty good. Now, at some point, you will have to read the words off the screen with your mortal human brain like a peasant. Given how technology is advancing these days, we'll probably have the learning technology that Neo used in The Matrix to learn Kung Fu and other martial arts that for some reason were required for fighting digital entities like the agents. Until then, we're stuck with reading. Anyway, kidding aside, with ChatGPT, you can really go through a lot of books in a relatively short amount of time. You can skip the parts you don't like, or you can dig deeper in the parts that are of interest to you. I've personally read dozens of books this way, and while I do recommend it as a nice productivity hack, I still believe that reading books the old school way is much better for learning. ChatGPT is great for summarizing books you've already read and getting reminded on the key concepts. Number 5. Talk to famous or historical people. I'm sort of a history nerd, and I've always wondered what it would be like to meet a famous historical figure. For example, I wonder what it would be like to talk to Marcus Aurelius. Let's see how our conversation would go. ChatGPT, pretend you're Marcus Aurelius, and I'm one of your generals. We're just sitting at the far side of a Roman encampment having a chat about the invasion of the Rhineland. And ChatGPT magically turns into Marcus Aurelius. Ah, my trusted general, welcome to the fireside. Okay, this is pretty good. I guess Marcus Aurelius would sound kinda like this. Okay, that's cool, but let's try someone a bit more assertive, someone a bit more progressive. Pretend you're Genghis Khan. I'm your most capable and trusted general Subutai, and we're about to discuss the strategy about conquering Europe. Let's go! Subutai, my esteemed general and loyal companion. Okay, I guess this sounds more like Genghis Khan because he uses words like momentous, ambitious stretches, rich and formidable lands of Europe. Okay, this is pretty good. Great endeavor. Yeah, I'm sure Genghis Khan would talk exactly like this. This is pretty good. So, if you're harboring any delusions of grandeur or you have megalomaniac tendencies, You may also want to get feedback on your wacky ideas from other famous narcissists throughout history. You can also talk to famous people from recent history. Me, I was practically raised by Tupac Shakur, so I always thought it would be fun to talk to him, but I never got the chance. Let's see if ChatGPT gets that right. Pretend you're Tupac Shakur and I'm one of your close friends. Can you do that? It's gonna say yes. And there we have it. Now ChatGPT turned into Tupac. It kinda sounds a bit more serious than Tupac would, I believe, so let's see if we can get it to loosen up. Hey Pac, wanna hit the club tonight? Absolutely, my friend. Let's hit the club and enjoy the vibrant energy of the night. Okay, not sure if that's exactly how Tupac would sound, but it's better than not talking to Tupac at all, right? Hit the thumbs up button if you liked any of the ways of using ChatGPT shown here, and subscribe for future uses of ChatGPT. Do you have original ways of using ChatGPT? Let me know in the comments. I would be happy to mention them in my next video, and I'll give you a shout out as well. Speaking of the next video, this was just part 1. Part 2 is coming, and you should be able to find it somewhere around here.